Hello and welcome. This is going to be our lecture video for February 10th through 11th. Let's go ahead and get started in our notes here with a little bit of practice of simplifying and multiplying fractions. Copying on this first one, we have the mixed number 4 and 35/77. All right, when I go to simplify this, I'll simplify just the fractional part first. So ignore that 4 for a second and see, can we simplify just 35/77? When I look at these numbers, they should jump out at you as being on our times table. 35 is 5 times 7, and 77 is 7 times 11. Well, they both are divisible by 7 or have a factor of 7, so we should be able to divide the top and the bottom by 7 and get a whole number on both sides. So 35 divided by 7, that's just a 5, and 77 divided by 7, that's an 11. Notice it's like we just canceled out those 7s, and now we're left with the 5/11. All right, now let's bring over that 4, and we have simplified our fraction into a mixed number. If we want an improper fraction, we can do the loop. When you do the loop, you do 4 times 11 plus 5. That gives me a 44 plus 5 gives me a 49. And then you keep the same denominator, so 49/11. All right, now a quick refresher on how to multiply two fractions. Here we've got two mixed numbers being multiplied. First thing we're going to want to do is turn these into mixed numbers by doing that same loop. 5 times 2 plus 1 gives us an 11, still over 2. Now when we do the loop with the negative number, ignore the negative at first and then just put it on top of the fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8, and then just make it a -8. All right, so don't let the negative throw you off. Just set it aside and then bring it back in. Now I've got 11/2 times -8/3. I can cross simplify this by dividing the 2 and the 8 by 2. I'm allowed to do this even though they're not directly on top of one another, because they are diagonal from one another. That's why it's called cross simplification. All right, so now I have a new problem, which is 11/1 times -4/3. And this is a little bit easier to solve because I just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and I've got smaller numbers this time, and I get -44/3. Now I can turn this back into a mixed number by actually completing the division of 44 divided by 3. Again, just to kind of ignore the negative, don't let that throw us off. 3 fits into 4 one time. Multiply the 1 times the 3, subtract it away. Drop down the 4. 3 fits into 14 4 times. Multiply the 4 to the 3, we get a 12, subtract it away. We have 2 left over. So that gives us our final mixed number of 14 and 2/3, and then bring the negative back over. So -14 and 2/3. That's our remainder there. All right, so on to a new topic. Our goal for today is to review the technique for dividing and adding fractions. While you're doing this many times in your life, we're able to divide up and add fractional amounts, like with money and pizza. We're always dividing our pizzas into fractions, and then, if you have 2 different types of pizzas, you might need to add those fractions. If you're dividing up your pizza amongst friends, you might need to divide those fractions. Pizza is a really good example of fractions. All right, so how do we divide 2 fractions? Here, this shows us we can take a division problem. And often we write this down with our old school division symbol just so that it's not too big of a mess of fractions, fractions inside of fractions. We're going to take that and we're going to replace it with multiplication. How else can we write multiplication? X is kind of the old school symbol as well. We'd rather see a dot there. But we're going to take the division, write it as multiplication. We're going to take the second fraction and flip it upside down. This whole process is called copy.flop. Keep the first fraction, change the division into multiplication, flip the second fraction. Now that we've done this, we can finish solving this problem here because we know how to multiply two fractions. Multiplying fractions is easy. You just multiply straight across the top and the bottom. So 2 times the 7, 3 times the 3, and I get 14 over 9. And we'll start just leaving all of our answers as improper fractions, at least for the rest of today. All right, so in your notes, do 5/6 divided by 8/9. So these are both proper fractions, so I don't need to convert anything, so I can go straight into copy.flop. I'm going to copy the first fraction, going to replace the division with a dot, meaning multiply, and I'm going to flop the second fraction. Instead of being 8 over 9, it's going to be 9 over 8. Next, I look to cross simplify. I can divide the 6 and the 9 by 3 and get a new problem. 5 over 2 times 3 over 8. If you forget to cross simplify, it's okay. You just have to simplify in the end. And the numbers are a little bit bigger, so that makes it a little bit harder, but not too bad. And I get 15 over 16. All right, what if I'm dividing a fraction by just a number? Well, I still want to use copy.flop, so let me turn that number into a fraction. So turn into fraction. And now we can use copy.flop. So copy dot 6 over 1 now becomes 1 over 6. Look to cross simplify, I can divide the 3 and the 6 by 3 to get a new problem. 1 over 4 times 1 over 2. Multiply straight across and we get 1 over 8. All right, now what if we have a mixed number? In order to use copy.flop, it's much easier if we have improper fractions. So convert to improper fraction. All right, and to do that, I do the loop. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, so this becomes a 5 over 4 divided by 5 over 7. Now I'm going to copy.flop that, so copy dot flop, cross out the 5s, and I get 7 over 4. And I'll just leave that as an improper fraction. You could convert it if you really wanted to. All right. Now on to our next topic, how to add fractions. So here we're seeing an example. What we're trying to do is solve 3 2/5 plus 1 4/7. This would be a good one to copy down. I would copy down this whole slide. The first step was we changed them both to improper fractions. Let's see if they did that right. Did they do the loop? 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2 is 17. 1 times 7 is 7 plus 4 is 11. Good. Then they changed to the LCD. LCD stands for least common denominator of 35. So I can turn a 5 and a 7 into 35 by just multiplication. And what I do is I do the 5 times the 7 and a 7 times a 5. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top, though. So that's why this becomes 119 over 35 plus 55 over 35. Once those bottoms match, you can see they added the tops, and we get our final answer here, and they just left it as an improper fraction, and that's okay. All right, let's try that on our own. 5/3 plus 2/3. These already match. Because they already match, we can just add the tops. So 5 plus 2 becomes 7 over 3. So just add the tops. Okay. Now what about 2/3 plus 1/4? Now the bottoms do not match, but they are at least proper fractions. So a guaranteed way to get the bottoms to match is to multiply them by one another. So I can do the 3 times a 4, and the 4 times a 3, and now they'll both be a 12. Just 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3. But whatever I do to the bottom of a fraction, I must do to the top. So I got to multiply the top of this one by 4, the top of this one by 3. That way this is balanced. And I get 8 over 12 plus 3 over 12 equals, now that the bottoms match, we just add the tops, 11 over 12. All right, I'll embed a few more for you to try here, but that's that for this lecture video, and have a good rest of your day.